Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We'll just wait another 1 or 2 minutes so that people can join in. It's 8:30 in India, 11 EST. Let's just give 1 or 2 minutes before we could start. Okay, so again, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Vikram Varma. I am the head of marketing for ECU360, a platform which takes care of all your shipping needs. We are part of the EQ Worldwide Group, and we have offices in over 180 countries with about 300 offices worldwide. I have with me Blythe Brumleve. She is the founder for Digital Dispatch, and she's also a host on Cyberly for Freight Waves. Blythe, do you want to say hi to the audience?
Hello, my name is Blythe
Yeah.
Brumleve. I'm the owner of Digital Dispatch. And I host a show called Cyberly over on Freight Waves. I've been marketing in transportation and logistics for the better part of the last decade. So I'm excited to be here and excited to help some other businesses out there with their marketing goals.
Great, thanks, Blythe. From an industry perspective, we are in middle of COVID. COVID is not giving us respite. It keeps popping up in various parts of the world. There are two countries at war, and then there are freight rates which go up and down. Amidst all this, forwarders are currently thinking of, how should they grow their business, right? Should they, imbibe some digital tools? Should they, launch a digital marketing platform? Should they launch some new products? The basic question is, how do they grow their business? And today, I'm happy to say that we would like to bring in a very important topic, which is something which I believe as a marketer that forwarders should do, which is use digital marketing and digital marketing tools to grow their business. And that's what we would take up in this webinar. So just before we start, from an audience perspective, just to understand how the audiences feel, we would like to conduct the first poll. So can we bring on the poll, please? Yeah, so do you believe digital marketing can help your business reach its full potential? If you believe it can, please say a yes. If you're not sure of the benefits, that's what Blythe is here for. And she'll tell us how we could go about doing this. And yep, so these are the three options you have. Great. So Blythe, the question to you is this the right time for forwarders to jump onto the bandwagon of digital marketing? That's my first question to you.
100%. I would not be here speaking to all of you without the power of digital marketing. I have always been a big believer in running my business and using the tools that I have at my disposal in order to create a greater brand awareness about what my company does and the problems that it solves. And I've always been a big proponent of picking a platform that you own. So there's only three platforms on the internet that you will ever own. It's your website, your email list, and your podcast. The rest of these platforms are all used to garner attention for your company. So think social media, advertising, anything else that we do online on a platform that isn't owned is what I like to call a rented channel. So I'm a big proponent of picking a one piece of owned property that you have, so a podcast, an email, or a website, and then picking one piece of rented land, so a social media platform that you may be active on or that your audience may be active on, and then using that social media platform in order to explain what your business does, the problems that you're solving, the specific vernacular, the specific words that your customer is using, and use that as a way to talk about.
Sorry, Blythe, we lost you in between, but till you get your network back, I would like to read out the poll answer. And yes, people believe, 53% people believe that digital marketing can help their business reach full potential. And that is good to know, because that is exactly what we are here for. In the current age of technology, sometimes technology can be a blessing in disguise, and that's where we all rely on great networks. Okay, let's go to the next poll question in the interest of time. Can the team? Yeah. So the next question is, how do you plan to grow your business? Do you have marketing teams, or can you grow it via marketing activities or through your sales team? Tell us, what do you believe? How do you plan to grow your business? Yep. Thank you. So yes, people have answered in the last question that they like to grow. 57% people have answered that they would like to grow business using marketing activities, and about 43% still believe that with the help of sales team, they'll be able to grow their business. Blythe, are you there?
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm not, I don't know what our internet connection was working just fine right before we started, but
No problem at all. We can continue. So, Sublit, that brings me to the next question. What kind of infrastructure should a small, medium-sized forwarder have to digitize their marketing and sales efforts?
So the first thing you need to make sure that you have is a lead process set up on your website. So I'm a big proponent of having a super simple website that speaks to your customer, but having a way that the customer can reach out to you and book a meeting immediately right on your website. Because for a lot of people out there, whenever they are seeing a company and then they eventually decide to want to submit a quote or see if your business can help them, what they will do is they'll go to your website, they'll either call you or they'll fill out a form. But a lot of times, and what we're seeing in a lot of use cases over the last couple of years, is that people just want to book a meeting immediately. What happens in the modern sort of B2B buying process is that someone will fill out a form and then they have to kind of have a back and forth with a sales rep in order to get that meeting established. Whereas if you can use some of these tools that are available on the internet, such as, even Google Calendar, Microsoft Teams, Calendly is another one where you can embed a calendar right on your website where somebody can book a meeting and it syncs right to your calendar. They can book a meeting right on your website in order to skip the sort of back and forth and get right to the conversation. So that is one key aspect of it, is have some way for somebody to book a meeting directly on your website. And then I would say, so you have that piece of owned land on your website, but then you pick a rented land. So you pick a social media channel where your audience is already hanging out. And that's the one that you really focus in on, because from a lot of mistakes are made is that you think you have to be on all the social media platforms. And that's the quickest way to get overwhelmed. So when you find yourself getting overwhelmed, that's when you need to pull back on some of these other social media platforms, focus on one platform where your audience is already hanging out. And then that way, the awareness and the posts and the engagement and the comments that you're leaving on, say, LinkedIn, for example, then people will naturally be curious about your company and want to find out more. And then that's the path that leads them to your website and eventually booking a meeting and then hopefully eventually becoming a customer.
So should a forwarder be on 4 platforms or 1 platform? How do they decide that?
I would say one platform. So as long as you have a way for folks to reach out to you on your website, then I would pick one social media platform. And then I would really focus in on that, because each social media platform, while it sounds enticing to be on all of the different platforms, each one has its own nuances and has its own sort of a verbiage that it uses. The way that somebody goes on Twitter and tweets is completely different than how they would talk on LinkedIn. So you have to find the audience, and most likely your audience is hanging out on LinkedIn, where that right now, that platform has the biggest chance for organic growth, meaning you don't have to spend money on advertising in order to get organic awareness. So when I say organic, I mean that you post something to LinkedIn and you have a greater chance for your audience to see it without paying any money, without paying any advertising or boosting the post. On platforms like Instagram and Facebook, in order to reach that same audience, you don't have that organic reach anymore. You have to pay for that. So if you only have so much time in the day, you're running your business, so you probably don't have that much time in the day. Pick one social media platform and then you can start with that one. And then once you learn it, say 6 to 8 months, you really have a good feeling on what works and what doesn't on that one social media platform. All of the skills that you learned there can be applicable to other platforms. So you're building that skill set with one platform first. And then before you get overwhelmed, then you can slowly add on to it as you get more familiar with that, with different social media vernaculars and what works on what platform and what doesn't. But you don't want to overwhelm yourself, which is why I say to pick one piece of owned land and then one piece of rented land to get your message out.
So you mean a forwarder should have a website and then they should also have at least one social media channel, right?
Yes, 100%. But on your website, it's really key to have a way that somebody can reach out to you. So sometimes it's just a website form that a lot of folks have. But if you want to take it up an extra spot or an extra notch, then I would add a calendar booking tool onto your website. So then that way you're doing all of this hard work on social media to talk about your company. So when somebody is ready to buy or they're ready to talk to you, you want to make it as easy on them as possible. And a lot of the times where the hang up happens is during that communication gap where you're filling out a form, you're waiting for somebody to respond to you, you're waiting to have that back and forth to book a meeting, which is why I strongly suggest having some kind of a calendar tool on your website. It can be very cost effective. I think a tool like Calendly is like $8 a month or something like that. Here in the US, I think it's only like $8, but there's similar tools all out on the web that you can add that to your website really, really efficiently and really, really cost effective. And it'll go a long way to making the booking a meeting perspective. It'll make that really easy on the person that you're trying to do business with. And that's what that's all about, is how do we make it as easy as possible for the folks that we want to do business with to reach out to us.
And do you believe that email marketing can be a useful tool for the sales and marketing teams at the forwarders end, to reach out to their potential customers?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because email is one of those platforms that you own. So I'm not sure if you guys heard me earlier because I was having a little bit of internet issues. But the three platforms that you will ever own on the internet is your website, your podcasts, and your email list. Think about it. If you are really active on, say, Instagram, for example, and for whatever reason, Instagram decides to shut your account down or you get locked out or somebody maybe hacks into your account, you've lost that account. You've lost that connection with your audience. With an email list, you have audience no matter if Instagram shuts you down or not. So it's a good practice to not only have your website, but then encourage people that maybe come to your website or see you on social media to sign up for your email list. You have to provide value first to that person in order to get them to sign up, because we're really protective over our email inboxes. We already get a lot of emails as it is. So you have to be able to prove that you provide value first and you're providing help and insight. What I see a lot of forwarders having success with is that they are being proactive about the education that they're sharing. So they're seeing, different trends in the market, pricing influxes, containers at, one port, they're not necessarily maybe at another port. So they are being proactive about the educational aspect of what's going on in the industry so their customers can be prepared. And they're using email in order to get that message across. And so as long as you're not spamming them or being too spammy, then you can, I would absolutely encourage people to have folks join your email list, because no matter what happens on these social media platforms, you will always have a connection with your audience if you keep that email list active.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you build it? For example, someone gets into a new business and typically their clientele is an importer or an exporter, right? A direct shipper. How do they reach out to these direct shippers? Where do they get database of exporters and direct shippers in various markets? So let's say if I'm a forwarder based in India or based in Seattle in the US, and I want to start building a database, what is the best way of doing that?
So building a database, sometimes it can be slow. Sometimes there are two different options that typically we will have in marketing, is that you can either buy the list, you can buy the database and just send an email out and hope it catches someone's attention. But the reality is that it's hard work to build up an audience for folks to trust you, to want to do business with you. So you can approach it in two different ways. So if you say you get a database list, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that that list is validated, because what happens, and what can happen to any forwarder out there, is that if you have a domain name, say your businessname.com, that's your first name at businessname.com, whatever your email address is. So that domain name, if you are sending too many spammy emails from that domain name and you get too many spam complaints, then your email can get shut down, or it can automatically be sent to the spam folder no matter what you're sending. So you really want to be careful about sending out to mass databases, because that's where a lot of people can get into trouble, where they're being marked, their emails are being marked as spam. Then what happens is your future communications, maybe to your current customers that you're not trying to, prospect, your current customers, their emails might start ending up in the spam folder. So that's something that you want to be cautious of. So whenever you get a database email, maybe it's from a conference that you sponsored, or maybe it's, a purchase list that you've come across, that you found. So what you want to do is you want to first run that email or run that database through what's called an email cleaner. You can often find a lot of these freelancers out on Upwork or Fiverr that will clean that list for you. And what they do is that they run all of your emails, or all of those emails on the database, through their email cleaner. They validate that those are actually legitimate working emails. So that's step one. And then step two is you want to send out an email that doesn't have a lot of graphics on it. A lot of email tools like Microsoft and Google, they will automatically, even if your email is good and you're following all the rules and you're not, being marked as spam, a lot of emails now treat graphics within the email. So think pictures, the really pretty looking emails. Those are often being caught by spam filters, because companies are so cautious about, cybersecurity threats, and making sure that the links that you're sending are actually valid, and they're not, trying to scam you out of, different, monetary funds or things like that. So if you send that first email, make sure it's a plain text email. So there's no fancy graphics. You cut right to the chase. This is what my company does. This is how we can help you. And you make the email about them. So you've cleaned your email list, you make the plain text email, you make it about them, and then that's how you can tell if somebody is interested in hearing from you further. Then that's when you can start the educational emails that maybe you send out once a week, or even, a couple of times a week, depending on, what the news cycle is and what's going on. But using your education and what you're seeing in the market is incredibly valuable to share, not only with your customers, but with your prospects as well. So that's how I would handle it as far as getting email marketing started, is really clean that list, make sure it's a good list. So then that way it doesn't affect you down the line. And then I would open up the conversation with, this is our company, this is how we can help you. And then that way you can leave the conversation, you can leave the door open for further communications. You'll likely get a lot of people that just immediately unsubscribe, or they don't want to hear from you again. And that's fine. That's to be expected. But those few people that do want to hear from you and they're not a customer yet, that's a prime opportunity where you can nurture that prospect to eventually become a customer in the future.
I think that's a great piece of advice, Blythe. We would also like to implement some of these initiatives at ECU360. I'm sure by now the forwarders might be thinking, all these sounds great, but all these initiatives might be expensive. So let's just ask them through a poll if they feel that digital initiatives are expensive. So could we have the poll, please? Yeah, it's a simple answer. If you believe digital initiatives are expensive, it's a yes or it's a no. Okay, so Blythe, what do you feel? Are these initiatives expensive, or they're pretty, they're pretty cheap, and even small and medium-sized forwarders can afford that?
100%. I have always been a small business owner, and that's the people that I speak to, because I know how it is when you're trying to justify where you spend your time and where you spend your money. And for a growing business or you want to grow your business, you don't have access to unlimited marketing budgets. I mean, heck, even a lot of us working at, bigger companies, we don't have an endless budget that we can spend on marketing. So it's really crucial to find out the software that's going to work for you, and the ones that just are out of your price range. Because I'll be honest, a lot of the software that's out there, I use HubSpot as a perfect example. They are a great all-in-one solution, but they are very expensive for a small or a medium business. And if you are trying to cut costs, if you're trying to get the same value out of what that type of software would provide, then Google Analytics, Google Search Console, both of those tools are free. And you can add those to your social, and you can add those to your website. You can see, how your social media is performing, if folks are arriving on your website, how they're finding your company. So I would highly advise, Google Analytics and Google Search Console, because both of those things are free. Then there's another tool that I would suggest is a project management tool. So Monday.com, ClickUp is another one, Basecamp is another one. These are all project management tools that can help you stay on top of the things that you have to do, not only from a business perspective, but also from a content perspective. Waking up in the morning and thinking, okay, well, what am I going to post about on social media today? That's a common question that all business owners have, because they're trying to grow their business, but they're also managing their business. So the way I like to approach it is pick the platforms that you can establish your processes and your framework. So what do you do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, in order to manage your business and grow your business? A lot of times when people wake up in the morning, the first thing that they do is they jump and they start managing their business. But if you instead just shifted that mindset a little bit to invest not money, but time, invest your time into posting to social media, then that's where a lot of the benefits happen for a lot of small to medium businesses out there, because you are allocating time. The first part of this is how I found success, and I know other business owners have found success. The first thing you do in the morning is you go to LinkedIn or you go to another social media platform and you write your post for the day. And then that post for the day can then be an email later on that week. It can then, spawn some questions. Maybe people are interacting with the post and they want more information. Then those questions, you can reply to those, and that's your engagement for the day. And then after you get done, say you maybe spend 30 minutes of the day on, crafting a LinkedIn post. Then after that is done, then you're free to go and to work on your business as you typically would. Then you can check in periodically to see how that post is performing. If you're getting questions, if you're getting DMs, then that's how you fit social media and you can fit marketing into your day. So there's a big sort of misconception that you have to spend a lot of money in marketing, when in reality, marketing is the time investment first. So being patient with the messaging that you're getting across. If you're posting to social media, maybe your post is only getting 2 likes. Well, if those 2 likes are coming from 2 people that would eventually buy from you, that's a big win. I would rather have 2 people that might do business with me engaging with my posts than I would like to have 200 likes from folks who will never do business with me. So keeping the numbers in perspective, that it's going to be a slow growth, but I like to call it the snowball effect, that if you keep doing the little things that have impact, you talk to your customers, you find out what they're struggling with, and you speak to those problems, and you use social media to speak to those problems, then it's a snowball effect. It gathers, and over time it builds and builds and builds to when somebody is actually ready to buy, maybe they're ready to switch their forwarder to your company. Then what they will do is they'll go to Google, they'll search for your company name, they'll go to your website, and they'll convert. And that's how it's basically the most, I don't want to say cheap, because you're investing a lot of time into this process. But if you invest that time organically, then when you start to earn a little money from all of these different efforts that are working, then what you can do is you can add money and you can add budget to those efforts in order to increase your awareness. Because if what you're doing is already working organically, then putting a little money behind it can also help speed up that process as well.
Yeah, so the last poll, I think 64% people feel that digital initiatives are expensive. And thanks, Blythe, I think you've really answered well that it may not be expensive the way you look at it. There are cheaper tools available which forwarders could use to reach out to customers. That brings me to the next question. How complex are these tools to start with? Does it require like specialist teams to work with? I mean, marketing people, expensive Harvard MBAs to work on your marketing, or it can be handled by your sales teams or operations team, or you could have like a very small marketing team. What would be your perspective on this?
So I'm a big fan of starting small and then building the pieces as you grow. And so you really only learn by using the tools yourself. And so from that perspective is you invest, it sort of goes back to that owned land and rented land. So as long as you have a sales flow set up on your website, then that gives you the creative license in order to go to social media platforms like LinkedIn. I keep going back to LinkedIn because it really is the best opportunity to connect with other people within logistics, within transportation, and just the global perspective of the people you're trying to do business with. And so going back to LinkedIn, then you can use that tool, and all you're doing is you're investing your time into it. So you have to build in the time to think about what you want to write about, write the post, and then post it. So that typically will take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour when you're first starting out. But the key is to building it within your work day. So then that way, you know that I've got the most important part of my marketing done for the day. And then the rest of the day, I'm going to spend actually nurturing that audience and talking to my customers and handling their, solving the problems for my customers, the typical things that you're doing in and out of your day. And so that is the sort of the mind shift that we have to train ourselves on, because we have to learn some of these things ourselves, because only then can we establish a process or a framework for tackling content marketing and tackling digital marketing. And then we can figure out, after we've established the nuances of those platforms, so what our process is going to be, what our framework is going to look like. I'm going to post this picture tomorrow. Well, you need to get the picture first. What is the picture going to be about? What are you going to talk about in the picture? And why should your audience care? Why should your potential prospect care about what you're going to say? And so thinking about it from that lens, then you have that process mapped out. So now I'm going to talk about this topic next week. I need, some kind of an image to match with it. I need the copy to be written. So what that process looks like. And then that next step is to figure out what you have to do and what you can outsource. And so when you get to the growth level, then you can pick and choose which part of that process you're going to outsource. A webinar like this, for example, after this webinar is done, you might not be the person that's going in and editing the webinar. That might be somebody else that has to do that, but you have to host it. You are the host of the webinar. So you can't really outsource that part of the job, but you can, once you map out your processes and your frameworks, then you can figure out where you can outsource and where you can get help. So for example, editing a podcast or editing a webinar like this, you can take this webinar and you can have somebody strip out the audio and make it a podcast. You can have somebody that takes up that watches the entire thing and then picks out maybe a 2 to 5 minute long clip that you're going to upload to social media. So you're taking that long form piece of content and then you're finding ways to simplify it. What's one simple point that you can make and then upload it to social media? So finding using the long form content as sort of your go-to of what you're going to be talking about. Like this webinar, for example, we could take this webinar and chop it up into maybe 15 or 20 different clips that are going to be friendly for social media. And then we can take those different clips and we can put links to those in our emails. We can use this content on our website. So starting with that long form content first can really lead to so many different opportunities of how you can get your messaging out. But you need to find out the stuff that you need to do and then the other stuff that can be outsourced. So you can't necessarily outsource your sales calls. You can't outsource hosting a podcast or a webinar or really posting to your personal social media page. You can't really you can, but you're not going to see that good of effect if you outsource the things that need to be done by you. And so that's really the key, is figuring out your processes and your frameworks first, and then figuring out what you need to do, and then the things you can outsource when the budget allows. If you don't have the budget to pay for that right now, then you have to learn it. But the good thing is that we have a tool, we have the internet that is filled with videos and tutorials that can help us guide along that process to where we can get it to a point where it is a file that we would be comfortable with sharing. But there's also, you can utilize the different freelance platforms that have all of these different skill sets that you can just send it off to them, and it's very affordable that you could take this webinar and send it off to a video editor, and they would be able to do all of those things that we just talked about, and they would be able to do it at an affordable rate. So that's sort of that next level of where you could take it. But it really starts out with you as the marketer, as the business owner. You're wearing a ton of hats, but you need to figure out your processes, because if you don't know your processes and the things you do, the order that you do them and why you do them, then it's going to be really difficult to outsource that in the future of the things that you don't need to be doing, like editing and like writing copy, things like that. That stuff that you might not, that you don't need to do, but you can outsource it.
Great. So technically, what you're saying is, as a business owner, I am the marketing person of the organization. But what if I'm not able to contribute time? Then do I need to hire specialists? Is my next question.
So I would suggest hiring a specialist only when you've mapped out those processes and what you want to do and why. Because then once you find out, it sort of sounds cliche, but once you find out why you're doing something, then it makes much more sense to invest money into why you want to do those things. Because then you have that sort of an ROI in your head. And I know we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but you have that ROI of what you want to get out of your marketing initiatives. Even as a business owner, you want to increase business. So how do you increase business? Well, you get more attention on your brand and the problems that you solve. And so if you're hiring a specialist in order to do those things, you need to know why you're hiring them to begin with. What specific things are they going to do? And what specific things are you going to do to make sure you're setting them up for success? I could hire a marketing agency tomorrow, but if I don't tell them what values and what I want out of the relationship, then they're going to have a hard time finding the goal of what they're trying to reach. So that's why I really preach, even if you're going to have million things going on, but your marketing your business is the most important thing, because it's the only way you're going to grow. So you really have to focus in and hone in on what you're doing and why.
Great. I have a question from a gentleman named Christopher. He's asking, after generating leads from LinkedIn posts, where would you invest your money to?
So where I would invest my money to, if you're getting leads from LinkedIn, I would then look at how those leads are closing. Are they actually closing to become customers? If they're closing to become customers, then you know that what you're doing is working. And so I would take that approach, and then I would start to use those conversations that you're having with your leads, use the exact verbiage of what they're saying in their calls. And then that way you can use those exact verbiage, and you can use it on your website. You can use it on your social media, your email channels, because that will really help you to reach other people that are just like them, that use the same terminology just like them. Because we have a habit of being running our business so often that we tend to forget what the entry level questions are. And so that keeps us sort of humble, that we can know what those, by having those conversations with our leads and our prospects, we can know of the exact verbiage that they're using. So then that way we can sort of use that same verbiage, and we can use it across all of our different platforms. So if what you have is working already on LinkedIn, double down on LinkedIn and keep it going. Because if what you're doing is working, then you don't want to, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And so you keep that in mind. Like, as you're growing your business, if you have something that works, keep doing it, and then find out ways to improve it. And that's the whole goal of social media, right? Is that if we find success with one account, then we can build on that and get it into a super drive on this platform. And then after that platform is succeeding, and it's succeeding on a continuous basis, then you can add another social media platform into the mix, and you can continue to grow.
Great. I think that answers Christopher's question. That brings me to a very interesting question. When I was in my MBA days, we learned that customer service is heart to any business, right? Whether it's retail or FMCG. Do you think customer service is important to grow the forwarding business?
100%. Customer service, no matter the industry that you are in, no matter your role, is 100% the best way to get ideas for what you need to build or provide in the future. So by talking to your customers, I know it sounds cliche. I know it sounds like something, well, I talk to my customers all the time, but are you really talking to them to find out not just the problem for today, but the problem that they're thinking about, maybe 4 or 5, maybe even a year from now? What are they thinking about in the future that maybe you can provide? So by talking to customers and figuring out what their pain points are after they've already been working with you is a gold mine for content marketing and also product development or service development as well. Say you only specialize in one type of commodity. Maybe your customer is thinking about growing into and adding on another service to their own business. You want to be the person that helps them with that. The best thing that you can do is to build revenue with the customers that you already have. That's the biggest revenue opportunity that you have, is to build that rapport with your customers so that they feel confident and coming to you with what they're experiencing, what they're thinking about, and what they may be planning on adding in the future. So by having a strong focus on customer service and customer interviews, then that will give you sort of the tools that you need and the insight that you need to know what to add to your website in the next website update that you make, what next email campaign that you want to send out about, what social media messaging do you want to post about. Having those customer conversations will give you all of that insight, and that it will help you stay one step ahead of all of your competitors as well, who aren't doing customer research and who aren't listening to the concerns and the questions that their customers are asking. A really quick way to keep track of that is I keep a document called a lingo library, where I keep all of the verbiage, all the vernacular, all of the questions that my customers are asking. I keep it in one central document. So then that way, when I need to talk about something on social media, I know I need to make a post for the day. I know I need to send an email out, things like that. I keep it in one central document, and that's everybody is adding their own questions to that document. So then that way I can look at that document and I know what I can talk about on social media for that day. I know what my next email campaign is going to be. So setting up that process for yourself, that you're going to have these customer interviews. And then after the customer interview is done, you're going to write down those questions that they asked into that lingo library. Then you are striking gold. You have your marketing campaign set up. You have a product roadmap. You have a service roadmap that you can play off of for really forever. As long as you're having those continuous customer conversations, then the customers are the source of all of the knowledge that you need in order to grow your business. Finding out where they're spending their time online. What platforms are they on? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Twitter? Are they on all of these different social media platforms? Or do they love email? Or do they love webinar experiences like this? So keeping track of what your customers like will help you bring more customers in that are just like them.
Great. That brings me to a question which is asked by Nilesh. He's asking that how do you reach out to customers in a market which is not digitally mature, while customers are there at a personal level, but they don't want to transact online for business. So how do we reach out and make customers, let's say, come on to platforms like an ECU360? Nilesh, I would love to answer this. So Blythe, I'll take over this question. Yes, so it's all about mindset. I think largely, we've also seen in ECU360 when we started this 4 years back that people, were very happy doing, manual ways of quoting and booking by calling our sales team. But when we launched this platform and our customer success team started reaching out to, the forwarders, slowly we had that mindset shift, and people started shifting from doing manual ways of business to online. Now, if you see clearly, there is a clear advantage to this, right? Because when you were doing things manually, it was taking sometimes over a day to even get a door-to-door quote. But today it takes less than a minute to get a quote if you do this online. So these are some things. It's all about giving the right time. You got to be there at the right place at the right time, and I think customers are happy to go digital. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of how important do you feel as an organization that you need to be there in the digital space. Blythe, that brings me to one more question for you. How important is ROI when it comes to digital marketing, and what should forwarders expect? From a 2-year ROI perspective. Let's say if they start today, what is it that they should expect in the next 2 years?
So in the next 2 years, if you are actively publishing to social media, so let's say we have our website and the sales flow is already established on our website. So that is key one. You do not want to start any marketing initiative, any kind of advertising campaign, any social media posting until you have a way for folks to connect with you on your website. Because if you're doing all of this other work and then they come to your website and there isn't a way for them to convert, then you've wasted a lot of time and you've wasted a lot of energy. So make sure that that conversion funnel is set up on your website first. That is step one, and none of these other steps will work. So the next step you want to think about, because the ROI eventually is people coming to your website and becoming a customer. Not everybody who books a meeting with you is going to eventually become a customer, but there are similarities that you can find with folks who arrive on your site, who book a meeting, and then who become a customer. So that's really where the lingo library document comes into play, because if you're having these conversations with your customers, then you know where they're hanging out online, you know what information that they want to see, you know what problems that they're struggling with right now. And so that's where all of the different marketing messaging comes from. So if you promised yourself that I'm going to wake up each day, 5-6 days a week, and I'm going to publish to LinkedIn at this time every day for 6 months, then I will promise you that you will resonate with your target audience and you will get better at it. You will become better at writing. You will become better at connecting with your ideal audience, with your ideal customers. And then that eventually snowballs into ROI, which ROI is always more business. But the mindset shift is really where I think a lot of businesses need to improve, because we see social media as a game, as a way that we post, a couple times. And if we don't get 10 leads from those couple posts, then it's considered a failure. But when we think about social media, when are we going to social media? We're going to be entertained. We're going to social media to be educated, to be inspired. And so when we're checking social media, we're not necessarily checking social media to go to another website. A lot of times those social media platforms don't want visitors to leave. So if you're publishing to social media with the mindset of keeping the audience educated, entertained, or inspired on that platform, then your posts are going to rank organically higher. They're going to have a higher shelf life, meaning they're going to last longer than a couple of minutes. So it's tough to answer the ROI with a specific number, but the specific number that matters is the people that are coming to your site and becoming a customer. That's ultimately what matters. But you have to be able to shift your mindset into thinking that you're going to invest your time, not necessarily money, but you're going to invest your time into connecting with your audience, having those customer interviews, doing that customer research. So then that way you have a repository, a lingo library document that you can then pull from for social media, for email, and all of that matters. All of that is a tool of communication for not only your current customers, but your prospective customers. And you're only going to get that kind of insight by talking to your customers and then conveying that message on social media first. So if you build that up, you promise yourself that you're going to do this every day for 6 months, I promise you that you will see an ROI, a positive ROI for folks that are coming to your website and converting. But you really want to make sure that you have that pathway to conversion set up first. Otherwise, you're going to spend 6 months posting to social media, and then when you don't get any leads from it, it could be because your website isn't working or your website form isn't working. So make sure that that is all set up and established first, and then just keep doing the right things. If you keep doing the right things, then you know from an organic perspective that it's going to have an eventual benefit. And then once you know from an organic perspective that it works, then that's when you can start adding in, more videos. You can add in maybe a podcast. You can start getting people to help with your social media posting, or with videos, and editing them in a way that you can upload them to social media. So it's establishing that framework first, that strong foundation, and then building on it as you go. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be overnight. But as long as you have those realistic expectations set in advance, I have barely spent any marketing on or any dollars on advertisements. I will in the future, but I know that what I'm building right now, I'm building it from a place of authenticity. I'm building from a place of trust where people now trust me to come to me with questions and I will answer them. Even if I can't help them, I will still answer them truthfully and honestly. And that has a ripple effect too that we can't necessarily place a data point ROI to it. Word of mouth is still very strong in this industry. Networking is still very strong. Helping other people will always be strong. And it just matters on how you invest your time in order to establish that strong foundation, if that makes sense.
So let's just shift our attention to digital operations. We've spoken about digital marketing. You've seen this trend where a lot of forwarders have now started using various platforms. Shipping companies are also pushing forwarders to book, FCL or LCL online. What do you think? This whole trend of quoting and booking digitally, is it going to help the industry?
I believe it's going to help. I feel like you could probably shine some additional light on that for us, because I think anytime you can make things easier on your customers, it's a big win. Because a lot of B2B marketing, a lot of just marketing in general, is folks doing the research online first before they ever pick up the phone, before they ever send you an email. And a lot of times we need to be ready when they are ready to make that purchase. It's something like 95% of people, it's the 95 to 5 rule. 95% of people aren't actively trying to find a new solution. 5% of people are, but if you're managing your marketing effectively, then you are marketing to that 95% of people so that when they become the 5%, you have already won before that person ever gets to Google, before they ever search out a competitor. And so that's the mindset that shift that I think needs to happen, is that as long as you're talking to your customers, you're getting your messaging out there, then that is that next step for you when that person becomes, when they leave the 95% to become the 5%. But marketing to the 95% will eventually have gains for you. And then that way, whenever they're using these digital tools, like going to your website or maybe getting the quoting and the booking tools, they're more likely to do that because of the messaging that you've already put out on social media and email, your website, all that good stuff.
Yeah, that has actually been our experience too. Now at EQ worldwide, 6 out of 10 bookings which we generate is generated digitally via EQ360 or other digital initiatives like API or EDI connections. While I say that, there is a question that my NVOCC is already using a digital platform to perform forwarding operations. Are there possibilities of upgrade? So honest, I don't know which platform and what exactly are they using for the forwarding operations, but yes, I can tell you, upgrades are always possible. And for sure, you could connect. You could connect with various NVOCCs through CargoWise or there are other platforms available. Today at EQ360, we offer people 3 ways of connecting their ERP. So one way of booking is they could come on to EQ360. That's fairly simple. Second way is they could connect their ERP with us using API, or third, they could go to a third-party portal like CargoWise or Dcart or something like that. So yeah, the trend is pretty much there. Online quoting, booking, track and trace. These are some of the features which are really important. The importers, exporters, the direct shippers are getting advanced. They want us to quote them at a lightning pace, and they don't want to spend time to get their quotes. So we clearly see a huge amount of ROI coming out of this. Just to throw some numbers, the best performing manual system on our API side can, the best performing manual system takes about 62 minutes to do quoting, booking, checking invoices, putting shipping instructions, all of that. And the best performing digital operations or digital system would take about 5 or 6 minutes. So that's like 12 times the saving when it comes to time. And this is the most efficient system we are talking about. But some research has told us in the past that it has taken over 24 hours sometimes just to get a quote. Wow. So the industry is definitely moving in that direction. So yeah, with that, we just have last 5 minutes. If anyone has any questions, we would like to take it up, or Blythe, we would like to look at some closing remarks from you.
Sure. So I think that you really hit the nail on the head when you talked about saving time for folks, because that is really that's where a lot of us always need help is saving time. So anytime you can take a quoting process that takes an hour out of someone's day and then be able to condense that into 5 minutes, and using a platform where I don't have to call somebody, I don't have to email, I don't have to get on a meeting with somebody, because we're all busy. We all have a million things we want to do. So if you can offer those tools and those solutions right on your website, and then you use social media in order to garner attention to the different solutions that you have, it's a home run. It's a win-win, because you're creating content and you're creating solutions that your buyers want. A lot of times I think a lot of businesses are they tend to sort of pat themselves on the back, or they tend to always talk about themselves, when really it comes down to the customer. Which customers are we trying to target? How can we create messaging around that? And how can we create solutions around that? So with your tool, with what you're talking about, saving 55 minutes off of a typical task that I have to do, that's a no-brainer for me.
Great. Mario is asking, are your systems only available for logistics operators? So Mario, largely, at the forwarder side, we've seen sales and operations using our systems. Sales use that to quote when they're sitting across with a client. So it's very trendy to carry ECU360 on an app, and you could quote right in front of the customer. It's very handy. You could carry your laptop and you could quote to the customer. But yeah, we've seen pricing managers, we've seen guys who work on tariff, all these people also use our system. So the best way I'll answer is just log on to ECU360, sign up, and once you're in, you'll understand what all the system could do for you. Any other questions? Someone just said Blythe is great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. That brings me just to one last question. So guys, we keep doing such webinars on a monthly basis, trying to get various people from the industry for the betterment of the freight forwarding industry. So the next poll is about what are the next topics which you would want us to present on the webinar. It's an open thing, so just type in, and we will review this, and we will try and come back with some fantastic topics for future webinars. Thank you, and have a good evening. And to people in the US, have a great working day ahead. Thank you. Yep. Let's take out the topic. So let me see if, sorry, just one second. So Blythe, some of the topics which people want us to, they want to understand more on LinkedIn. They want to understand how can we do network partnerships, how to use booking and quoting tools, how does digital freight work in the LATAM markets, and something on customer service. So great. Thank you, people. And, we will come back with some topics. Keep in touch, like us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and, we're happy to do many more such webinars. Thank you, Blythe, for your time, and looking forward to have the next week conversation with you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, guys.